bad. Make sure you join my Patreon if you haven't already, because I have more content on there that I can't post here. Today we are going to be watching The Last of Us, an entirely predictable disaster, by Critical Drinker. Makes it sound like a book.
The Last of Us Season 2 stumbles and flops to its conclusion like a fat guy trying to pole vault in the middle of a storm of fan backlash, cratering audience scores, and viewing figures that HBO conveniently doesn't talk about anymore. In short, this season has been nothing short of a complete and total disaster. A boring, bleak, depressing, badly written slog of a show that actually strained the very limits of my endurance just to get to the ends. And I've watched The Acolyte.
We were on the brink of extinction!
And the thing that's so sad about this whole thing is that this disaster was entirely predictable. In fact, I predicted it months before the season even started in this video right here. But man, even I couldn't have imagined just how bad it was gonna be, apart from a couple of half-decent action set pieces where all that HBO money was on full display, and a performance from Pedro Pascal who was clearly doing his best to carry the entire show on his back. Season 2 has been absolute trash from start to finish. Boring when it should have been compelling, laughable when it should have been poignant, frustrating when it should have been exciting, preachy, self-indulgent and pretentious. It's everything the game was but dialed up to 11. And now that it's finally over and we've had the full Season 2 experience, I think now's as good a time as any to reflect on where exactly The Last of Us went wrong. So grab your potato masher and let's explore the top 5 reasons this show went off the rails.
Okay, kind of made me interested in watching the show, actually. Seems like a lot of people didn't really think that the Season 2 would be as good as Season 1, just based off of the games alone. The first game was widely loved, and the second game was maybe even widely hated. A lot of people did like it, and there were a lot of positive things in the second game, but it just kind of seemed predictable. If the second season was going to be anything like the second game, a lot of people probably wouldn't like it just based off of that alone. And it does seem like that's what the show did. So far, this is an assumption. I didn't actually see the show myself, but it does seem from all the clips that I'm seeing and from before they even started the season that their goal was to, for the most part, follow the game.
Problem number 1. Joel. It's no secret that killing off Joel in the first few hours of the game has gone down in history as one of the worst narrative decisions that anyone's ever made, ever.
That's probably like the
I said
second.
one of the worst. And you'd think that 5 years of fan backlash, alternative suggestions, and endless video essays would have convinced Neil Druckmann to do something a bit different this time around. But nope, there it is, almost beat for beat exactly like in the game, at the same exact point in the narrative. And as it turns out, it was just as unpopular now as it was 5 years ago. Not only did killing off the
Shocking.
protagonist of the first season in such a pointless, brutal manner leave a sour taste in people's mouths, but it also left a gaping hole in the show that no other character could possibly fill. The relationship between Joel and Ellie was the beating heart of both the game and the show, and without it, The Last of Us lost that vital element that kept people engaged. It's humanity. And there's really no getting around this. Pedro Pascal was by far the best thing about The Last of Us.
Gay!
Yeah, he's arguably overhyped and overexposed as an actor, and I'm still not convinced he was the best man for the job, but one thing I can't deny is that the guy can act. Pascal brought some much needed authority, gravitas and believability to the show, and with him out of the picture, it was up to problem number 2 to carry this show.
Yes, overhyped might be the word, which sounds like such a hater thing to say. I don't have anything negative to say about Pedro Pascal. I mean, there's probably been a few things that he's been in that I haven't even seen. I realized later he was in Game of Thrones. Didn't actually put that together myself. But yeah, that was a good character. And probably can act. He looks like he can. There might be some flaws that other people can pick apart. I'm not here to do that personally. Because who am I? And I don't think I've watched enough of him to even have an opinion. But yes, definitely in this show by comparison, he seems to stand out as a really good actor. At least. So It is kind of sad that you see something that a lot of the audience, a majority of it even complained and even gave suggestions of, hey, alternative endings, or hey, maybe not so soon. We know he's gonna die. We even maybe accept that that's how the story should go. But maybe like towards the end, or maybe a different way. Maybe do the scene slightly different. Maybe don't make him look like an idiot. Oh, he's unseasoned? I don't know. I think that whenever somebody has been working with cars or guns their entire life and they decide to retire or they just hang it up for a little while and they get back into it, I don't think a person who's so well versed with guns, just because they haven't picked one up in a while, is going to swing it around. I think if anything, they're going to say, "Wow, I'm a bit rusty. I'm going to be more careful." Because I haven't done this in so long. I haven't gone out in the wild and interacted with people outside of the camp in so long. I don't really know how to do it. Yeah, Tommy, let's not fully go in. Let's just go home. You got your girl. I know there's a storm out there, but because we're almost, in a sense, socially awkward with anybody who's not our kind or our people at our camp, we're gonna go. Like, we're gonna not have a tea party.
Problem number 2. Ellie. There are certain unavoidable truths that have to be reconciled in life, dear viewer. 1. True happiness is something that you only recognise once it's gone. 2. Aerith is objectively the better girlfriend for Cloud in Final Fantasy VII. And 3. Bella Ramsey was the wrong choice to play Ellie. Now, I'm not here to all over her appearance or hate on her as a person, because that's pretty unfair and mean-spirited. She's just an actor doing a job, and believe it or not, she actually comes across as pretty likeable and down-to-earth in interviews. But the harsh reality is that not every actor can play every role. They have to physically embody the character they're playing, and if they can't do that, they at least have to capture the essence of that character's personality. Clearly, Ramsey doesn't look anything like Ellie, so the first option's right out the window, but she also doesn't have the acting range to embody Ellie either. Her performance ranges from so wooden you could build a log cabin out of it, to so over the top that it makes Nick Cage look like Anthony Hopkins. None of it feels believable. She's laughable when she's trying to be intimidating, obnoxious when she's trying to be likeable, and weirdly disconnected when she's trying to be tender and vulnerable. Much as I dislike the game, one thing I can't deny is that Ashley Johnson crushes it as Ellie, and comparing some of their most iconic scenes, you can't help but notice the massive gulf of talent between her and Ramsey. It's a lethal combination that absolutely kills your investment in the character, and it doesn't help that she's been written as a completely different person from the game. Game Ellie was a broken woman for most of Part 2, completely consumed with revenge to the point where it takes a visible toll on her mind and body. Yeah, it was depressing, but it at least made sense, and it perfectly fit with the theme of revenge ultimately costing both parties everything. TV show Ellie is completely different though. You can practically feel the insecurities of the writers shining through, where they try so hard to make her tough and resilient, where she used to be open and trusting, and instead of being strong and determined, she just comes across as prickly, arrogant and aggressive. Her relationship with Dina has gone from teetering on the brink of collapse to some idyllic teen romance where they're cracking jokes, smiling, laughing and like they don't have a care in the worlds. They never really argue or fall out, they see everything pretty much the same way, and they're both so frustratingly agreeable that you have to wonder why Dina even exists. It makes zero sense, and it leaves you with this horrible nagging feeling that Joel's death really didn't make much of an impression on Ellie at all.
Very good way to end the point is it seems as if Joel's death doesn't really have that much of a toll on Ellie. I remember seeing some people even speak this way about the game, how there's certain scenes that kind of makes it seem as if she's completely forgotten about it. And no, people probably don't expect her to walk and sulk and cry the entire gameplay. That would be a miserable experience. People in real life also find moments or glimpses of happiness and just kind of try to distract themselves from grief. But maybe how it's done just isn't delivered very well. It is fair to point out, hey, if there's 3 things that hang on to a character, mannerisms or how you look or how you act like them, and you're already missing the looks, then it is fair for people to point out the other stuff. Maybe ease up on the looking. I'm sorry, I forgot that Pedro Pascal looked like Joel. Well, the reason why people don't have a problem with it is because he holds up in the acting, so people let go of the looks. Of like, oh, it clearly doesn't look like Joel. What, just any older man can play any other older man? No, they don't look alike. But he does so many things that are kind of on cue with, on par, how do you say that? with Joel's mannerisms and his acting's really good, that you kind of just maybe don't care that much that he doesn't look exactly like him. It should matter more about how he acts like the character and how he portrays him. But because she doesn't look like Ellie and people don't feel like she portrays Ellie as a good actress, people are so stuck on, well, maybe if you looked like her, it would be better.
Problem number 3, the pacing. The pacing of Last of Us Season 2 is absolutely abysmal. In the games, this was less of a problem because the player was in control most of the time and cutscenes only came up occasionally to move the story along. Here though, that's literally all we've got, and it doesn't take you long to realise that there really isn't much of a story to tell here, and so a good chunk of the season is just time-wasting, busy work bullshit. How many times do we have to watch Ellie and Dina wandering through a forest or a deserted city, swapping shit jokes and pointless banter that tells us nothing about them, or moves the plot forward, or builds up the worlds? How many tedious sex scenes did they have to cram in that feel completely out of step with two people in a tense survival situation where death can come at any moment? Yeah, there's nothing like being freezing wet and cold and surrounded by zombie fungus monsters to get you in the mood.
Oh,
There were
no.
whole episodes where nothing of any significance happens and I was bored out of my mind, and it all feels like such a waste of potential. It's the hallmark of self-indulgent hubris on the part of the showrunners, the belief that they're producing such artistic perfection that the audience will just luxuriate in every second of it. It's a show about mushroom zombies, mate. Get a fucking grip.
Can't speak much about the pacing if I didn't watch the show, so just we'll speak about the pacing of the game. Personally, thought the pacing of the game was really weird too, but has a very good point. If you're controlling the character and the scenes only come up every now and again, maybe it isn't as noticeable as watching a show that you have no control over that has to fill in all those blanks where you're wasting time scavenging in a video game. One of the things in the game that thought was really weird pacing is everything kind of felt like it was going at the same motion until Joel dies. And then it was just sped up to something that was really weird, and all of a sudden we're on this mission together. You can kind of ignore that because maybe whenever you go through grief in your mourning, things like that feel that way in real life, where things just happen really slow or really fast when something really bad happens. But there's another part in the game where it seemed as if they just wanted a certain scene to happen with Abby, so they rushed for her to go to this aquarium, which actually takes forever. But then after this certain scene, she just magically backtracks and goes back to save like teenagers or something. Thought that part was the weirdest part. That had to have been one of the weirdest parts in the game. I don't understand why they backtracked. It was so hard to get there, and then she essentially just slept with him so she could come back. It was just so weird. I remember having to actually sit there for a moment thinking like, did I miss something? Maybe I didn't get it, and maybe I didn't. But it was just so weird. It felt so... There was no explanation. It just felt like, hey, we want this scene to happen, but we want the teenagers there to be... We don't want the teenagers to be there when this happens. So we're going to have her go, but then we're going to have her come back. So then she can get them and go back again.
Problem 4, the writing. Everyone in this show is a idiot. From Ellie and Dina just casually riding down the middle of a city street that could be crawling with enemy troops, to the wolf leaders who decide to occupy a hospital that's infected with airborne virus spores that could infect them at any moment, to Joel and his complete refusal to stand up for himself or explain his past actions, to Abby walking off and leaving someone who's clearly gonna come after her for revenge later. Nobody's actions make any sense. It's all just done in service of the plot, and that's not even counting the dialogue that's so cringe-inducing it feels like even an AI would refuse to spit it out.
I'm gonna be a dad. Oh no!
Come on guys, that couldn't have even sounded good in your heads.
Also seems like a perfect opportunity. I guess this is actually more about the pacing one. Maybe I do have a response. Seems like a perfect opportunity to wedge something in there that wasn't in the game. I mean, you're slightly doing it anyways, and you did it in the first season, and it worked out really well. There's a very short part of the game where I think his name was Bill. I'm sorry, I did watch the first season and I played the game, but it's been a really long time. Where the two guys, they made it a whole thing. It was a really beautiful episode. A lot of people liked it. Well, that wasn't in the game. It was actually a very short event, and there were a few things that would have been nice to see, but at the same time, you can appreciate a person's vision and changing it, because I think both worked. And the game was really good, and I valued that point of view. And in the show, that was also really good, and that point of view can be valued. Both were good. And it's interesting to see, okay, well, this wasn't broke. Why did you try to fix it? Oh, well, if you like that, you could just play the game. It's just nice having variety, and they were done really well.
Problem 5. The message. Yeah, you probably knew this bit was coming, and for good reason. The game was notorious enough for being aggressively pro-current thing, but the show takes it to such a ludicrous degree that it actually becomes laughable. The whole 100-pound actress beating up a bunch of accommodating stuntmen routine has been done so many times that I'd become kind of numb to it by this point. But then we're treated to the insane sight of Bella Ramsey, who looks like a small child at the best of times, literally overpowering a man who's at least twice her size and many times her strength. What, are you retarded? Who the fuck do you think is gonna buy something like this? Like, seriously guys, did your fight choreographer not put up his hand at some point and say, I don't think this is working, I don't think people are gonna believe this. But the girl bossing doesn't end there, dear viewer. Not by a long way. I can pretty much guarantee that almost every position of command and authority is going to be held by a woman in this show, and every military unit will be at least 50% female, because as we all know, putting women of childbearing age on the front line is definitely a smart move when the human race is teetering on the brink of extinction. And I'm not kidding, there's even a point where a heavily pregnant woman is somehow allowed to go out into hostile territory, like she's not going to be a complete liability to herself and everyone around her. Son of a bitch! What the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, do you really think that anyone in their right mind believes this nonsense for 1 second? The inconvenient truth is that if The Last of Us actually happened for real, women would never be allowed anywhere near combat, or danger in general for that matter, because they're too valuable to risk losing. They wouldn't be allowed out on patrol, they wouldn't serve in military units, and they probably wouldn't be in positions of frontline command either. They would be at home, having babies and keeping things running behind the lines, while the men took all the risks and made most of the big decisions. Is it glamorous? No. Does it fit with modern progressive politics? Also no. But funnily enough, all that stuff tends to go out the window once people start dying and all the safeguards and comforts of modern society get stripped away. You really would be amazed how quickly the idea of girl bossing dies out when people have to take actual physical risks and put their lives on the line. On the other hand, the male characters around them are usually portrayed as corrupt, bigoted or cowardly at worst, and at best benignly agreeable and progressive, always happy to take insults and disrespect without ever giving anything back, and defer to their betters because again, that's how guys like Neil Druckmann in their comfortable 21st century progressive bubble imagine that the world would look. And in a show that's so desperate to be taken seriously, it's amazing how much The Last of Us relies on cliched tropes that became outdated and laughable half a decade ago. It's a show born from bad source material, adapted into a preachy, self-indulgent mess by a man whose activism was always more important than storytelling, repeating the same mistakes he made with the game but still expecting a different result. The Last of Us Season 2 really was the most predictable of disasters. They knew what they were heading towards, they had every opportunity to change course and do things better this time, but instead they just ploughed on, too arrogant to listen and too zealous to change. Well, you really did get what you deserve, and The Last of Us deserved the failure it created for itself. I'm just glad I don't have to watch any more of it for a couple of years. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
In a post-apocalyptic world, it just isn't believable that the majority of the people who are taking over and leading front lines and running things are women. Not saying it's never happened before and isn't possible in some aspect, but shoving it down everybody's throats, and convincing everyone, oh, this is exactly how it would be, isn't believable, along with seeing a little girl who's probably 5'2" take down a grown man. I mean, muscle mass, height, like everything, it's just none of it is believable. How he can't get out of that position and her body weight must just be weighing him down. There's been women out there who can take down grown men because they're a little bit slimmer, they're a little bit quicker, maybe more flexible, and he's a little bit cocky, he was sloppy, she manages to trip him, she manages to get him in a chokehold. That is actually believable and has happened before and can happen. But the entire show and every opportunity to show that women are stronger takes it, all of it looks like it could just be written off. Anyways, I hope you guys like this. If you haven't already, make sure you go check out Critical Drinker's channel because that's where I got the video from, and check out my live streaming, which is on my other YouTube channel and my Twitch, and I'll see you all next time.